I remember I used to watch, the comedian Chris D'Elia?
Yeah.
So it used to be hilarious. Chris D'Elia would go on the Fighter and the Kid podcast all the time. And I can't remember the name of the guy that hosts the Fighter and the Kid podcast with Brendan Schaub. I don't know why my name is blanking on this right now, but he got canceled too. But I remember,
or the grooming thing.
This was Chris D'Elia's. Chris D'Elia
yeah.
was the grooming thing. This other guy got canceled for something else. What's the guy's name? He was in The Hangover. Brian Callen. But him and Chris D'Elia would come on the podcast, and it was peak white boy humor, right? Peak white boy humor, going back and forth, all kinds of stuff. Peak white boy humor, hilarious, right? Very funny. I remember Chris D'Elia used to do this thing to where he would talk about how much money he was making. It was a very funny bit. He would be like, "It didn't make a dent." Like he'd be like, he'd say something and he'd be like, "Yeah, I bought all of this. I bought the dinner. I bought all of this, and it didn't make a dent." And it would just be funny every time he would say it because you knew it was coming, and he was just being such an arrogant asshole. And Brian Callen looked at him one time and he was like, "You shouldn't brag about your money because," and he was saying it in a joking way, but it was so real. I remember this as soon as Chris D'Elia got in trouble. He said, "You shouldn't brag about your money because it's very temporary and it can all be taken away from you at any time." He said that to him on the podcast. And then lo and behold, some years later, Chris D'Elia got into a shitstorm of trouble from allegedly grooming girls or whatever was going on based upon a role that he had portrayed on a Netflix show. And then they came and got him. And I was just thinking, damn, like there's so many people out there that I would have never thought that in my life I would have this opinion of them. I never saw the Bill Cosby thing coming. The R. Kelly thing was willful ignorance on behalf of the whole culture. But to think at 11 or at 12 years old, me and my parents and my sister sat around and we watched the last episode of The Cosby Show and we mourned the fact that the show was going off the air.
Yeah.
It was like, what happens to Bill Cosby now? Are we going to be able to chill with Bill Cosby for 30 minutes a week, every single week? And now, just completely different. Like, really, I mean, that wasn't one thing, but all of this is based on perception, man. And your perception can change in an instant. Mm-hmm. Henry Ruggs, you know what I mean? Like, your perception can change in an instant. You have to be responsible for what it is that you say and what it is that you do and what it is that you're a part of. You know what I mean? I was lucky to come out of that TMZ thing with my reputation. It's just that people knew me well enough to know that I'm not a dangerous, violent, crazy guy. But it didn't have to be that way. And it doesn't have to be that way for a lot of people.